First episode.
First episode of the BiOptimizers Awesome Health podcast. I'm here with my brother, my co-owner, co-founder, co-legend, Matty G, away T Lightheart here. Really, this has been, 13 years in the making, I guess. Since we started this journey to awesome health.
Yeah, maybe we can share that story real quick. You know, I knew Wade in the gym. I was a personal trainer. Wade helped me out, moved to Vancouver. Wade helped me navigate those waters. And at that time, I was studying internet marketing, started making some money online. Wade won a national bodybuilding championship. And I'm like, hey man, why don't we package your stuff? And we created our first product, which was Freaky Big Naturally, which was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And we launched it. It was successful like day one. I remember we made a profit the first day we launched it. It grew pretty rapidly. And then we started launching supplements like hemp protein, which was 11, 12 years ago. It was way ahead of our time. And then we launched enzymes, Masszymes, which are still our best seller today. And the rest is history. I mean, there's all kinds of twists and turns, but here we are.
Pretty amazing because really nobody at the time was doing hemp protein, nobody was doing enzymes, nobody was doing probiotics, and now you see it more pervasive through you buy mom and pop protein powder now that there's some enzymes and stuff. It might not be the same quality, but the message has changed. So I think you're a big part of starting that trend. And way back in the day, the funny part of the story was, which Matt didn't mention, is I couldn't believe that he was making money on the internet at that time, and he couldn't believe that I didn't own a computer. That was the deep down story, and here we are today, sharing and helping people around the world. It's pretty amazing.
There's another great detail to that story, which some people may not know, and that's you were a vegetarian. So right. I just thought that you were really marketable. Like, here's this natural vegetarian bodybuilder. I mean, that's a pretty weird, rare combination. And you're still a vegetarian. You're still doing the deal. And yeah, I mean, that really led us, I think, to the plant-based proteins. Now, I'm not a vegetarian, but I never liked whey. I never liked the dairy stuff. I didn't like how it made me feel. And maybe you could talk about that experience, because I saw you diet for 11 months. Basically, he was eating rice cakes, whey protein, and what else? Potatoes
and salad.
And salad.
And shredded wheat biscuits. That's right. So 6 things.
6 things. And
very low calories. 600 calories a day for 11 months.
And I just saw the effect on your brain.
Yep.
And your performance. And I think a lot of that stuff has led to where we are now with BiOptimizers, because we were both at different times obsessed with bodybuilding.
Oh yeah, big time.
Right? Like, it was about the look, the aesthetics. And the more you push that line, something bizarre happens. You start experiencing health consequences. So, after you crashed and burned, and let's share that story because I think it's relevant. You dieted for 11 months, you competed, and then what happened next?
Well, I did 3 competitions back to back to back. The Western Canadians won that, went to the Nationals, won that, then went to the Mr. Olympia, and I still got the pictures, and you see all the pictures all over the site, but people don't see that I gained 42 pounds of fat and water after that show, because the pullback from just the pain, and the last 6 months was a nightmare. I was in pain, my mentality, and I remember getting done that, and I was going, God, we've got all these people, that I've coached and trained and stuff like that. And I was like, there's got to be a better way, because this doesn't make sense. Why should I sacrifice my health for performance? And I made a pact with myself at that time. I made a deep level commitment. I said, I'm going to find a better way, and I'm going to share this with everybody for the rest of my life, because when I kind of had that experience, I was able to pull back, and I was able to take a look at what happens to athletes after the lights turn down? What happens at the end of their careers? And I'm not just talking about bodybuilding. I'm talking about every sport. I'm talking about the people that really have that drive to push themselves hard, or to find that next level, or get to that next gear. And I realized that oftentimes the physicality gives out, and it's assumed that that's what's going to happen. But what if we could extend it another 2, 3, 4 years? What would that make a difference in performance and health? And of course, like race car performance, you know, you look at race cars and they have all these handling systems and braking systems and engine systems and all these different technologies, wind resistance and stuff. And although no one's going to drive around the track at 250 miles an hour or whatever, the technology gets applied, and that might save you from an accident or save you from serious injury in your everyday life when you're commuting the kids to school. And that was kind of the journey that we got to in BiOptimizers, is how we could take these really, really far out high performance things that have been tested at extremes and bring them back and apply them universally. And it's been a great ride. It's a lot of fun, and that's what we started this podcast, because we want to kind of like, we're bringing in so much stuff. It's like, how do we share all the stuff that we're doing in a simple and concise way for people to learn from in an effective way?
Yeah, I think we've always been, at the very least, explorers, and a couple of things, pioneers. And our mission is to share the discoveries, what works, what doesn't work, share the technologies, the food, the training, the supplements, the brain technologies, the water technologies, and all these things with you, so that you can apply them. Because this stuff isn't just for bodybuilders. It isn't just for athletes. I just did a workshop, and one of the things I talked about was just entrepreneurs, and I said everybody should be thinking of themselves and treating themselves like professional athletes, because and we're seeing that already in Wall Street. We're seeing that again with some of my entrepreneurial friends, that they're achieving a new level of performance with the brain optimization and some of the hacking technologies, because you can unlock another level of focus, another level of endurance, another level of energy, and all that stuff pays off. But I think one rabbit hole I want to get into is how you feel, because most people haven't experienced what it is to achieve awesome health, super health. There is an experience where you feel kind of like a Superman, you know, and I'm not talking about, it's hard to describe, but
I'm not talking about jumping off buildings or anything like ridiculous.
No, but it's just a level of energy that is uncommon, that is above the norm. See, with BiOptimizers, we're not about just fixing your health issues. And yes, we are about that. We fix digestion, and we fix a lot of other health problems. But it's a continuum. You get to normal, and then from there, you can experience awesome health. That's what this podcast is about. And I just like you to talk about what's that experience like, because for those that are listening that haven't experienced it yet, they kind of have to take a leap of faith, and maybe you can kind of give them the clues as to what they can expect.
Sure, and I would take people back to their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you were a kid, you never thought about, am I getting tired from running? Am I playing too hard? You're always looking to extend the day as opposed to get to the end of the day, and you don't really think about these things. And then somewhere along the line, sometimes it happens to people as teenagers, some people in their late 20s or mid 20s, some people not till their 30s or 40s, depending on how their lifestyle's gone. All of a sudden, something shifts, and they're like, God, I don't have the juice anymore. I'm tired more. Or why isn't my body doing what it's supposed to do? Or why do I fall asleep at 8:30 at night? Or why can't I digest that food? Or how come I'm gaining weight so quickly? All these kind of symptoms of basically the body not being able to produce at the level it's capable of. And it's a combination of a lot of things added up together, compounded with the stresses of modern society. You know, society, business, our lifestyles, it's growing at exponential levels of information and pressure. Mm-hmm. And that kind of data that's coming in is forcing us to go next level. If you want to compete on a global scale, on an international scale, and that's the way the world is thanks to the web, it's not local anymore. You can't be the number one guy in town and everybody thinks you're a legend. You're just one guy in a million around the world, and that changes the game. So the reality is what does awesome health feel like? It feels like you can go on 2 hours of sleep if you need to. You can get in, and you've witnessed this, you can fly across the world, do some seminars, fly back, do some more, and fly back the next day and be able to function at some level of capability. You can go to environments where people are sneezing and coughing and, freaked out about the blood going around. You're not even worried about it. You just go, yeah, that stuff doesn't bother me. You can eat food that you're not used to. and be okay with consuming it and not have that fear. So it eliminates a lot of the fears that kind of shut down people's lives, and they don't realize it at first. But once you get on that train and you get a little bit of momentum and you go from disempowered to empowered, then it's like, okay, where can this go?
Yeah.
And that's what the show's about.
I think once you have a taste of it and you start experiencing, I think it starts with more energy, and that's very tangible. Energy might sound like this weird mystical thing floating in the air, but when you wake up in the morning, or it's 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, or you have to work in the evenings, I mean, energy is very real. You have it or you don't, and if you don't, you suffer. Like you literally physically suffer because you have to push yourself, and it's hard. And if your brain has lethargy, it's sometimes literally painful. I've experienced those things. I don't experience them anymore. So, the point is that we can go past the normal levels of energy. Then comes endurance. And again, that's also, when you have to fly across the world, when you have to perform, when you have to work evenings, when you have to do a 60-hour week or an 80-hour week, when you have to work 6 days a week, you're able to do it. And then there's the mental clarity, the mental performance side. And that, again, if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur, or you have to be creative in your life, that stuff pays off. Like literally ROI-wise, return on investment-wise, you get a massive payoff because you can unlock new levels of creativity. And we're not even talking about what you can do in the gym or as an athlete. We're just talking about your day-to-day life with your kids. Can you really serve your kids if you're burnt out and you're tired, you're exhausted, and all you want to do is sit on the couch and watch your favorite show? It's hard, right? But if you got that next gear and you come home and you're able to be happy with them and smile and play with them and have fun, again, it pays off in different ways. So BiOptimization, biological optimization, is something that pays off in just about every area of your life. Yeah, so how about we review the Awesome Health formula, because it's a great, memorable framework that Wade came up with, and it these types of things like acronyms, how people memorize things. So why don't we go through it? We can go deeper into each one. So why don't we just give you a quick review?
Sure.
And then we'll do a deep dive.
So we talk about the AWESOME was an acronym that I created for, kind of worked out. And the first one, A, stands for air, W stands for water, E stands for exercise. And really the first three, if you want to be bioptimized, if you will, or have an optimal biology, they're non-negotiable, frankly. You will never, ever get to that level if you don't have your breathing, your water, and exercise of whatever you like figured out. Then from there, we move on to the next part, which is sunlight. And that's a very expansive field because I don't, I've been studying this for so long, I don't see the table, the food, the frequencies that we're doing. I look at it from a physics perspective, which is it's all condensed light on some level. And even at the mitochondrial level inside your body, little energy furnaces that run our lives, it's electron covalent transfer. It's just really sunlight going from here to here somewhere, like a little mini universe.
And we'll go deeper into light. I mean, all the light technologies that I use on a daily basis. I mean, it's really exciting times.
And I think it's going to expand more and more, and also to be recognizing what you could be suffering if you're not getting light like we have. So for 100,000 years, we've had humans who have spent most of their time outdoors, and only recently humans are now spending most of their time indoors. And that means you're getting maybe 1 to 5% of the light that we're used to be getting as humans, and that's a huge topic. So we could go deep in a lot of different areas on that level. Then we get to optimizers, and optimizers are what I call the non-negotiable things that your cells need to function at an optimal level. And it starts first with enzymes and probiotics. The only two units that actually do work inside the body, your capacity to make energy exchanges in the body are directly correlated with enzymes, and your ability to fight off other invaders and to digest and metabolize your food and to eliminate pathogens is related to your probiotic levels. So those are the workers, those are the guys that clean the streets, run the lights, take the ambulances, all that sort of stuff that you can imagine. Those two guys are the workers. And then we go into, of course, essential amino acids, essential fatty acids. Okay, we go into minerals, vitamins, and then the nutrients that you require beyond that. Of course, some of that would require specificity, but we don't necessarily. There's some commonalities before you get to specificity, and we can find out how you can get it through testing, which gets you to the next part, which is the M, which is mental beliefs and attitudes, examining the thoughts, the belief systems, the parameters that we set up life, because no one really knows how reality is. We have a perception of reality, and that has a lot to do with the conditioning, our hereditary, our social environment, and also our conditioning of what we're subjecting ourselves to. And oftentimes people set up self-imposed limitations, and we've gone through it many times, and Matt and I, you got to recognize is we've come from really polar spectrums in the way we've approached a lot of things in life, and that give and take has allowed us to examine our own BS, our own belief systems, and our own, and it's been a great experience, and we like to share that, and we're always challenging and see if we can upgrade that, and we're going to share that with you. And then the final piece is E, or etc., which stands for education, testing, and coaching. Education means to learn from within, and what we invite people to do is check out some of our stuff and then apply it in your life and see how it affects you so that you can learn. We can't really be the ultimate authority on anything. What we can share with you is what's worked for us, what we've been able to integrate, and what we've found from our testing parameters, and invite you to share that, to do your own experience. And I think so many people today have kind of said, well, is there a triple blind double study of whatever with 15 levels of peer review? And really it's like, just try the darn stuff. It's not going to kill you. And be your own test, because there's no better expert on your body than you. Testing. What are the tests that you can do to get the data that is going to support that, what I call intuitive evidence, or that might lead you in a direction or away from a direction that you thought? You looked at something, you tried something, you didn't realize the repercussions, or you didn't realize that you needed this, and a testing can kind of shorten the curve of window of which direction you're going. And finally, coaching. And coaching is, if you look at the high performance in every single field, any level, you need coaching. I got a bunch of coaches for different areas in my life just so that I can compete on a global scale, and I know you do that as well. We both have backgrounds as coaches, and I remember initially, having a lot of resistance around coaching, just having an ego about that. Oh yeah, I got this all figured out. I can read a book. I can do this or whatever. And the reality is that might be true, but you will never get as far or to the level that you could as fast as possible if you don't have someone that can lead the way for you and kind of help eliminate all the sidetracks. And that's really about growing as a total human. So
let's rewind back to air.
Yeah.
And let's go a little deeper. So we're talking about air. Really, we're talking about oxygen, right?
Yes.
So maybe you want to share some of your breathing practices. Sure. And we got to give some credit to Wim Hof in the last couple of years. Yeah. He's really brought to the mainstream the power of breathing. And you hit something that I think is worth talking about, and that's, there's always major lag time. Sometimes it's 5 years, 10 years, can be 20 years, can be 50 years between people who have discovered something and something being scientifically proven. And let's just take air as an example. Wim Hof has now proven that with certain breathing techniques, you can achieve super oxygen levels in the blood and fight off all kinds of amazing things and build your immune system. But let's face it, it's not like he created breathing. I mean, some of the meditators and advanced yogis probably figured that out 2,000 years ago. So it's a 2,000-year lag time between the discovery and the science. So for those of you that are listening, don't be the guy who's the last guy to adopt something 20 years from now. You don't necessarily need to be the pioneer who takes the arrows in the chest either. Yeah. But
there's costs to that as well.
There's costs. But if you hear something, like Wade said, try it out, do some experiments, and see if it works for you. But anyways, back to air. You do some breathing practices almost on a daily basis. Maybe you can share just the quick
Well, I think there's
one-on-one on that.
one caveat first is breathing is one of the things that you can do in the body both consciously or unconsciously. So if you're thinking about it, you can do things, but if you're not thinking, it's going to happen automatically. And I think that's one of the big reasons why it hasn't proliferated so well, is because people are like, yeah, breathing, come on, you know, everybody breathes, that's easy. But I know in my own studies, I got into meditation around 1996 originally, and then I got a formalized teacher who practiced a lot of different breaths, and that started in 2000. And what's interesting is in the East, the breath doesn't start with the inhale like we think in the West. It starts with the exhale, and that is the expulsion of carbon dioxide is a critical component. And the science is carbon dioxide bonds on hemoglobin, little guys that carry out, like I think 4 or 5 times faster than oxygen joins. So that's why, you know, smelling a tailpipe is a bad idea. I could kill you really quickly. So I started learning about how to deeply exhale. Like one of the easy ones to, like, let's say you're wound up or something, is just to do two quick breaths. So I would exhale and then exhale deeper to really force the body to contract on a cellular level, push the carbon dioxide out, and that allowed for a deeper inhalation, like the first breath, which is kind of where most people are going, and then taking in a longer, deeper breath with those sounds that you heard. And I started just doing that, and then practicing tensing the muscles. So, you know, it'd be relax, and then tense everything. But you cannot believe how much energy you'll get, but not energy in like a caffeine kind of like I'm whacked out of my head zone, or, you know, taking too much stimulants. It's like a calm, relaxed energy. So if you're too stressed or you don't have enough energy, this became a really simple and easy breath. And then another one that you can do if you're looking to increase your cardiovascular health is what's called a 10-10-10. You start walking, you inhale for 10, you hold for 10, and you exhale for 10. And that sounds really easy. Go ahead and try it for 3 or 4 breaths, and all of a sudden you start panting, you can't do it, so sometimes you have to start at 5-5-5 and 6-6-6 and build yourself up. But that allows you to build up your cardiovascular levels, even if you're 70 or 80 years old or older, or you're not able to do some kind of heavy physical exercise for some reason. And I use this with a lot of people with compromised health just to get started. Matty G, you want to say something?
Yeah, or even the slightly tougher version is the box, where you do 10-10-10-10, and actually the toughest part of that is when you exhale and you stay void, right? You stay empty. That's the real tough one.
Yeah, that's the inhale for 10, hold for 10, exhale for 10, hold for 10.
Yeah, so basically no air for 10 seconds after you've already exhaled at a slow pace. Yeah, that's even more challenging. But yeah, you know, the bottom line is you oxygenate your body and experience a new level of energy. And sometimes people get dizzy when you first start doing this because you're not used to taking in so much oxygen. But also a little note, a few years ago, I was in a big weight loss cycle when I was doing some of the metabolic training, and I went to get my blood tested. And my CO2 in my blood was like way out of whack. Like it was super high. And for people that are, you know, doing weight loss programs, you want to do this because as you're losing weight, and this has been proven at this point, you're producing all these byproducts, including CO2. So it'll help you detox and eliminate that faster, way faster, by doing the practices that you just talked about.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people might not, and I think this will be proven eventually, is that a lot of the benefits of regular exercises is forcing deep breathing. And the carryover that, you know, lower heart rates and increased oxygenation and energy levels are not necessarily from the exercise. It's actually, you can get a lot of those benefits just from breathing.
Next is water, and let's rewind right to the beginning. So I was doing some sleep deprivation experiments in my 20s because I was obsessed with productivity, and I was doing 80 hours in the gym. I was training twice a day. I was recording an album, and I was learning copywriting. And it's hard to do that with 8 hours of sleep. So
it's hard to do that, period.
so I decided to start reducing my sleep, so I was doing 50 minutes at a time. Now, when I got to about 5 hours of sleep a night, I was forced to drink water, because if I wouldn't drink water like every 10 to 15 minutes, I'd crash. Because, this is weeks of sleep deprivation.
Right.
Really months at that point. And I had to drink 4 to 6 liters, and more than that, I had to gulp. I had to, every 5-10 minutes drink, 5-10 minutes drink. Plus I was doing a ketogenic diet, which tends to dehydrate your body a little bit because you lose the glycogen. Mm-hmm. So that was my first real experience with the power of water. Then I read The Body's Many Cries for Water, which from Batman Deej, which then you read, and that started your journey into the water world, and then you discovered some amazing water technology. So let's talk about water, man, because it's most people think, again, oh, water is water. I got water in my tap. Yeah, I drank my 8 glasses. I mean, not to laugh at anybody, but there's so much more that can be experienced, and you're one of the top experts out there. So go ahead.
Well, I'm going to cite a fellow, and I recommend that everybody check this out if you want to get deep into the science of this, and it's a guy by the name of Gerald Pollack. And Dr. Pollack has actually proven that water has 4 phases. In other words, it's a solid, it's a liquid, it's a gas, and it's a crystal. And it exists, it's the only substance that exists in these 4 states naturally in nature. Mm-hmm. And it has some unique properties. I mean, you think about it. You can walk on frozen water, you can swim in liquid water, and you can breathe gas water. But this whole crystal idea is a very interesting topic. And I was just hanging out with him recently, and we got to dive deep, and I'll hopefully get him on the podcast here in the not too distant future. But there's a lot of debate in the water world. And I think the reason why there is that debate is because people aren't thinking of water as a crystal, as a storage unit of information. We're mostly water. And the ability to think, our emotions, and our functionality inside the body is determined by our level of hydration, the quality of the hydration, and then what's in those mediums. And I like to think of water as like a DVD disc. And you can put a horror movie on it, you can put an education film on it, you can put a sporting event on it. You can program that disc, and it's going to play, say on your recorder, on your machine, a different movie, even though it's essentially the same disc. And why everybody's coming at this water thing from their perspective, saying, oh, spring water is best, or reverse osmosis is best, or ionized water is best, or my water is better than your water, what they're not looking at is, here's how I've manipulated water to get this result. As opposed to seeing each other as opposites on the spectrum, as looking at, oh, let's look at this as a universal thing, and let's apply what we learned to it. And for me, I've experimented with over 150 different types of water systems, which is a lot. And I'm constantly, anytime that someone's got, you got water for me, I'm ready to try it. I love this topic of water, and I still feel like I'm a beginner. But what I can say is, out of my experiences around the world, I haven't found anything as, first off, you need to filter your water. You got to be drinking tap water is crazy.
So
it's crazy.
So let's go there. Let's just talk about some filtration stuff, because most people are at least hip to that, and maybe if you're listening and you're not hip to it, well, let's go there. Right now, in most cities in North America, there is a shocking amount of medical pharmaceutical drugs in the water. So you are literally drinking drugs. Let's just start there.
Yep.
Then you got fluoride.
Yep.
Then you got chlorine.
Yep.
Which was a gas weapon in World War I. So, I mean, why on earth would you want those things in your body? I mean, just from a pure kitchen table logic. Right. If you want to wait 20, 30, 40, 50 years for the establishment to do the double, triple blind study with 10,000 people, go ahead. But let's just put some kitchen table logic here and say, aren't these things going to disrupt our flora? Aren't these things going to disrupt our systems? I mean, I think so.
Well, if you look at, there's some really great stuff done by the CDC, Center for Disease Control, which demonstrated the increase in obesity in the United States of America relative to the places that fluoridated versus others, and that is an endocrine system disruptor. And a lot of people out there are struggling with weight, and they're going, why? Well, you're chemicalizing your hormones. You don't function as well. Your leptin cycle doesn't work well. Your appetite changes. Your hormones change. Your testosterone estrogen ratio. Every thyroid goes off. Thyroid cancer, one of the most leading growing cancers in society. Now let's look at, if you look at the chemistry chart of the halogens, right? Iodine for thyroid function. But what's also on there? You've got fluoride and chlorine are also halogens which bond onto the thyroid much faster, interrupt T3, T4 conversion, and that can have also compounding effects on your metabolism. Not to mention how this kills bacteria. It's done to kill bacteria. So we have bacteria inside our body. We talked about probiotics, and this stuff is designed to kill it. So how much of that do I got to drink before I start altering how my digestion works, how I alter how I start assimilating food, how I alter my hormone things? And it sounds maybe extreme, but once you start drinking really purified, clean water, you start to notice a difference. And all of a sudden you go to tap water and you're like, I can't drink this. It's like I can't think of, I cannot drink tap water out of the tap, like a fancy restaurant. This one drives me crazy. I'll go to a fancy restaurant that I'm paying premium dollars, and they bring me the water, and I can smell the chlorine from the table.
Yeah, I mean, when I go to the United States, and sometimes you're in a hotel or whatever, and you haven't had water in 8 hours. Sometimes, and you're washing your teeth, and you need to use some water. I mean, I just taste it like it is kind of repulsive, right? It is kind of repulsive. So let's talk about, and before we get into the advanced stuff,
right,
I want to cover the basics of actually consuming water, because I think most people have it all wrong. They're thinking in terms of glasses. And going back to my sleep experiment and the sleep deprivation, what the little code that I cracked, and you do this also, is taking a drink every 5 to 10 minutes, right? Like, it's not about drinking a glass. It's always about having that bottle with you all the time. So you'll leave the house, make sure you have a water bottle. When you're in the house, always have a glass. And you just want to train your body to build a habit, your mind, your body, have the habit of grabbing the glass, grabbing the bottle every 5-10 minutes and taking a drink. And something magical happens where it's like your water metabolism gets faster, where you can absorb the water faster, you can process the water faster, and your body starts craving more water. I start missing water if it's not there after 10-15 minutes. Like, I'm so used to it. So if there's one habit with water that you want to build, is taking 2-3 gulps, not a glass, 2-3 gulps every 5-10 minutes, and you're going to notice you're going to start craving water. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, for those people who want to get into the science of that, to confirm that, there's a test called the electrointerstitial water scan. And what that does, it will actually test all of the organs inside your body to see how hydrated they are. And what's interesting is, well over 95% of the people that used to come into my clinic in Vancouver, we put them on the test, dehydrated. And it would take about 3 weeks to fully hydrate them if they're pounding water. And when I mean pounding water, I'm talking 4 to 6 liters a day. And almost no one drinks that much water except if they're a high-performance athlete. And athletes are always talking about it, people. But then there's another thing. If you're drinking just purified water or like distilled water, you're also burning through minerals at a much higher rate, and so there can be consequences to that. And some people are resistant to that. So, and if you're not doing that, what happens when you're dehydrated? What do? You overconsume sports beverages. You overconsume coffees. You overconsume sodas, all those things that we all know that's bad for us. But when you're thirsty, your brain is like, give me something to drink. And the thing is you're going against the greatest minds in the world that can create concoctions that hook your brain onto taking that product. So unless you spend the time to develop the water habit like you were talking about, you're swimming in deep waters, and you'll never ever get to experience the levels of awesome health that you could. And a lot of people say, well, that sounds so boring, or that sounds so... It's actually so easy to improve your health, to drink water, and to set up those habits and have water present to you, and have good water. Not, I think some people have aversions to tap water or to these things because there's an intuitive awareness that says, yeah, this thing's not so good for me.
Yeah.
And when you've drank that crystal clear spring water, or that super purified water, some of the stuff that we do with the great machines that we have to bring it out, and you're drinking this like, it's like the nectar of the gods, and then your body goes, yeah, now that's water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your body does have innate intelligence, and let's talk about how most people have broken their thirst mechanism, where they're so dehydrated that not even wanting water, even though they're chronically dehydrated, is normal. I mean, that's where most people are at. So I want to just address that.
Yeah, I mean,
challenge.
It's a big thing. And most people, when they start, like what you're talking about, drinking that water cycle, I mean, we learned this from coaching people for years to get them underwater, and they're like, oh wait, I can't drink 8 glasses a day or 4 liter, whatever you're telling me. And you're just like, just start where you're at, and you start kicking in, and something magical happens 4 or 5 days in. Your thirst mechanism gets returned back on, and your body goes, okay, yeah, this is what it is. And the biggest disassociation I think people have with thirst is they think that they're hungry when really they're thirsty, and we've mistaken that identification. And of course, you compound marketing goes into mental beliefs and attitudes. You think you're hungry, but you're really thirsty.
And there's something magical, it's not magical, it's just physical, that happens. And Batmandish talked about it, and he called it the breakthrough point. And I remember experiencing it for the first time, and it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Going back just to how does super health, awesome health feels like. And if you start drinking 4 to 5, 6 liters a day, some people it takes 4 days, 5 days, 7 days, but your blood volume goes up.
Yeah.
And when your blood volume goes up, your energy goes to a different dimension, just about instantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't want to come down from that. Like when I travel, sometimes I don't bring all the water technologies. That's the thing I miss the most, because after 3-4 days, I start to feel the regression back to probably where I was most of my life before I got into this stuff. So I'm going to subscribe. Let's move on to the first E.
Yeah, exercise. And this is the one where everybody starts to cringe. I'm like, no, exercise. And people say, well, what's the best exercise? I think it's the one that you love to do, and you've got to find your love.
Yeah.
For me, it was lifting heavy inanimate objects in multiple planes and ranges. It's kind of the stupidest thing ever when you actually just zoom out and look at weights. I go to a gym and I pick up things and I move them this way, and I made a living out of writing programs out of it, and you read books on it, and it seems kind of far out. But for whatever reason, I just resonated with that, and I went for it. And some of the things that I didn't realize at an earlier age, I used to walk a lot, I used to bike a lot, I used to run a lot as a kid. And you didn't really have to think about exercise, you just did those things. And then later on in life, I noticed a point where, wait a second, I can't run as good, or I can't walk as fast, or as frequently, or as far. As like all of a sudden these things became compromised, and I realized, boy, I really needed to take control of my life, because we've created this world where we don't exercise. I mean, it blows me away, the recommendations from health from the international societies 100 years ago were recommending, get this, 20 miles a day of walking for health. And I know there's a lot of people that go on the Camino Real. It's a kind of a spiritual walk across Europe, and they all notice that they all lose 20 or 30 pounds on this amazing walk through nature. It's just because they're walking so much every day, and they're eating pasta and having wine at night, and they're doing this, but they're losing all this weight simply because they're getting out and moving at an exponential level from what they're doing on a daily basis. And I think we've forgotten in this kind of push-button society just how this body does not work right if it's not moving, and moving frequently, and then also moving with intensity. so there's various levels. You want to talk about your history of exercise and the importance of it? Because, you're a business guy behind a computer most of the day, and, as a lot of us are, what are the things that you've noticed from maybe childhood to now and how you combat that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, a great reframe, because for some people the word exercise, there's pain associated because they went to the gym, maybe a trainer like us kicked their ass a little too hard, too fast. They got sore and they're like, I'm not coming back.
Or maybe they're thinking of those 80s unitards where people were jumping around the gym and they got like, mental thing like, oh God, not that.
Or you bought a Richard Simmons video.
God bless Richard.
That just scarred you. So anyways, but the point is just reframe it as movement. You talked about it. Just look at it as movement and finding, like you said, the movement that you love to do. These days there's so many options. You can do yoga, rock climbing, swimming, biking, weightlifting, running. You got every sport. There's new sports being created all the time. So, some people love to golf. Some people love to play tennis. All those things work. They count. The main thing is you want to find a way to be regular and consistent. Going back to my story, I got my first weight set when I was 12 years old. I'll just share a little story because I went to the mall and there was this body glove shirt that was $60 and I wanted to buy it, and my father was like, and what I wanted for that Christmas was a guitar. So he says, if you buy that body glove shirt, you're not getting the guitar. And being the rebel that I was, I said, screw it, I'm buying the shirt. So I bought the shirt, and instead of getting a guitar, he bought me a weightlifting set, which was, probably one of the greatest gifts I ever got. And in that little manual, it was a Weider weightlifting set.
Yeah.
There was something they said that I took to heart and never forgot. And it said, never miss a workout. Because if you miss a workout, it's going to create a place in your mind where it's okay to miss a workout, and then it's going to be okay to miss two, and then you're done. You're out. You're finished. You're not doing the exercise anymore. So that's a big one. And I want to talk about momentum because
that's huge.
Most people don't understand momentum. And I think when it comes to exercise, health, and nutrition, understanding and mastering, building, and then maintaining momentum is one of the most critical things.
And now for a BiOptimizers fixed digestion tip. Supercharge your protein shake. Everyone knows protein shakes are a great way to sneak in extra protein, build more muscle, even replace meals and burn more fat. The problem is the highest quality protein typically absorbs at around 40%. One way to fix this and dramatically increase how quickly and effective your protein shake digests is to add 2 to 3 capsules of Masszymes into your shake. One research study showed that pre-digested protein during a meal increased muscle growth significantly. To take advantage of this, just blend the open capsules into your shake, and within 15 minutes or less, the enzymes will have begun to break down the protein into amino acids. This can make your shakes at least 2 to 3 times more potent. Some people do this and sip on their shake while lifting to provide their muscles with a steady stream of amino acids during their workout. To save 10% on Masszymes, use the code SHAKE10, that's SHAKE10, at Masszymes.com. That's SHAKE10 at Masszymes.com.
So I see momentum as 2 things. There's building momentum and then there's maintaining it, 2 different things. So let's start with building it, right? So building momentum really comes down to taking baby steps, and then the first step is always to take the first step. And the big challenge that most people have is they think, okay, I got to go to the gym and I got to do a 1-hour workout. Mm-hmm. What if you just did a set of push-ups in your house, or you just said, okay, I'm just walking around the block. See, that's how you start momentum. You have to break, what's the smallest unit that you're absolutely comfortable doing? I like to go down to that, and then momentum starts, because you go around the block and then maybe you're like, hey, that was fun, let me go another round. And then next day you're like, yeah, that was cool, I walked the dog, let's do it again. And then momentum is starting, right? and the habits are starting. Now, habits take a while to build. 21 days is a number thrown out a lot, but if you don't like exercise or you don't like something, it can actually take months. So maybe it's 6 months, 9 months, but until you get to the point where like exercising is like oxygen, it's critical, like you miss it if you don't have it, you're not there yet. So that's where you have to keep some level of discipline and make sure that you go back to the Weeder book and you don't miss. Like, not missing is so critical to maintaining that momentum. And again, especially the first, let's just say 6 months for people, 9 months, first year. Now, there's some other big secrets which kind of go into some of the more advanced stuff or the last E, and that's coaching. I tell people, listen, to build the momentum, hire a personal trainer, hire a coach, because now you're borrowing their energy. You're borrowing their passion, and you're getting accountability. And for somebody who, again, doesn't necessarily enjoy going to the gym or is uncomfortable, maybe because of social pressure or how they look, going to the gym with a trainer changes everything.
Well, I think about it if you're a kid and you first start swinging on a swing set. And you can't get it going, and then mom or dad or your uncle or whoever, your babysitter, gives you that push. And all of a sudden, you start to realize how to move on the swing. Well, if I stick my legs out and I bring my legs back, I get more momentum. And you're like, help me more. And the child invites that and presses that. And pretty soon, you're swinging high both ways and you're having a great time. And I think if people can approach this from a child's perspective, that's okay to reach out and get that help and have the accountability. And the other factor is if you go to Tony Robbins, what he talks about, there's two basic motivations, pleasure and pain. Unfortunately, most people are motivated by pain. And if there's a pain of accountability, if there is a pain of a pact, of breaking a pact with someone you care about, or there's a financial cost to you not showing up or making that at first, then that's what you need to do to get the thing going. It's not enough to set another New Year's resolution. It's not enough to say, oh, I've watched this video and I'm going to do this, or I've got a wedding in 3 weeks. It's about a lifestyle choice. It's something that you have to make time. And the reality is we all have the same amount of time in a week. But if you don't take control of this component, the cost is exponential. The sick time, the physicality time. You've got to build up a painful story to motivate yourself to move away from that and move towards the pleasure, and then eventually becomes pleasurable. And I'm going to give a little story about that. I had a client who came to me in his late 40s. He was going to the gym. He was a hairdresser, and he said he absolutely hated going to the gym. He hated exercise. He hated everything about it, but he felt his body breaking down. And he said, I know if I don't do this, I'm not going to be able to do the job I love, which is being a world-renowned hairstylist. And we trained in the morning, and he came down there, and he told me recently that the first year and a half for him, he hated every minute of it. He said it was just hard. He said the only thing that made it bearable is I had you as a coach, and it was, we had a good time, and you made it fun. He goes, but then I remember after that he says, I remember waking up one day and I was excited to go to the gym that day. I had gone on a trip and hadn't worked out for 3 or 4 days, and he says, I felt my body missing it and I wanted to get back to the gym. And I remember that day he came in and told me, I said, I'm so excited to be here. And that was the TSN turning for him. He was one of the longest ones to go. And now what's interesting, he's a senior citizen. He's still killing it on a global scale. He's a world-renowned hairstylist. He has an amazing business and an amazingly balanced life. He's in the garden on the weekends. He's traveling the world during the week, and he's still working in his business. He says, I don't ever want to stop because I feel like I'm a productive member of society, and I can run circles around people that are 20, 30, 40 years younger than him in his salon. He says he owes it all to taking that daily movement and getting momentum in his life.
Bottom line is, I think until you are at the point where you love it,
yes,
you haven't arrived yet psychologically and emotionally. So I want your goal to be you love it. Like, not you're doing it, not it's kind of a habit. That's cool. That's some milestones, but I really want you to get to the point where you absolutely love it. That could take years, but keep experimenting, try stuff. You know, there's so many cool stuff. You can try different classes in your gym, hire a trainer, just experiment, and you'll find that groove.
And we'll be talking a lot about exercise, the different types, the different kinds, techniques, ways to maximize it, way to make it more effective, how to exercise on the road, all these sort of things we're going to cover in the Awesome Health podcast. And we're going to be bringing in a lot of different experts so they can share their perspective so that you can find out what it is that you love in regards to in finding. And you know, I have to share something. Is I was really closed down in my experimentation process in a lot of things. And thanks to Matt, he was always pushing on me to kind of expand my horizons. And now I'm excited to try new things. And believe me, it's worth the journey. All right, so now we're on to sunlight. The big difference, it's kind of like the middle of the road between, you know, kind of air, water, and exercise, and then we get into optimizers, mental beliefs and attitudes, and education. We live in a solar system. The reality is nothing works without the sun. We're hurtling through space at, like, I don't know what, 80,000 miles per hour or something like that, and we're spinning around the planet, and who knows where we're at or what we're doing. But without the sun, nothing exists. The planets don't go around. The materials in our Earth doesn't exist. We don't go anywhere. And most importantly is, as humans, we require sunlight. And you and I have had a really interesting thing. We've experimented living in really cloudy, rainy environments versus really sunny, hot, and warm environments. And what's interesting is there is a measurable biochemical endocrine data that will show you that your hormones change, your mood change, how you process foods change, how your body looks. It all changes with exposure to light. And now what's happening is we are on the cusp, I believe, of some of the greatest breakthroughs in mankind by using light technology, whether it's lasers, whether it's lights to shine into your head to repair your brain, whether it's lights to change your brain states, whether it's lights to change the color of your skin. We're at the cusp of an emerging field of light technologies. And I want to dive into this with you because I know you've kind of really jumped into the deep end of light technology and what it's been doing for you.
Well, let's start with one thing, and I'm going to make a bold statement that I'm going to stand by big time, and that's people think of the sun as vitamin D. And my statement is this: there is at least, I don't know the number, but probably half a dozen other things going on when you're in the sun that we haven't discovered yet.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned. But the great thing is you can go to the sun and get the benefits now because, and I know this for a fact because, you know, being an experimenter and being data driven, I've done the experiment of going in the sun, 3-4 days a week, peak time, 15-20 minutes to get that quote unquote vitamin D, which again is a lot more. And my body fat or the level of fat loss would double. My testosterone would go up. My anabolism, my muscle building would change significantly. And then I've also tried just taking oral vitamin D, best vitamin D you can buy. None of that happened.
Yeah.
So the vitamin D is not the magic. There's something else. And again, like, being a bodybuilder, you would go in the sun, and you're going back to the Arnold days, they would work out in the sun. There's just something magical when it comes to fat loss and muscle building when it comes to the sun. Now, most people are scared of the sun.
Yep.
They've been indoctrinated to avoid it. It's cancerous and all these things. And it goes back to dosage, right? There is an optimal dose of things. And that's what we're about at BiOptimizers. We're about finding the optimal dose. And you don't need to worry about getting in the sun 3-4 times a week for 15-20 minutes and getting some sun, because your body's going to perform better. And I met a doctor at A4M, which is one of the top doctor conferences in the world, anti-aging conferences. And he did a research paper that showed where if they had more sun, they had way less cancer. Mm-hmm. So the point is, and maybe again, I'm not stating anything here. Maybe it's some of the skin products that some people are putting on that is creating some of the issues. And also, if you're in the sun like an hour, 2 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and then you're past optimal at that point, and maybe there's going to be issues. So
I think there's some really, if you go back in time, for literally thousands and thousands of years, people worshiped the sun. They saw the sun as the center of the universe. They saw the center, or the gods, or that was providing the healing things, or growing the land, and people kind of saw that. And then if you go back even to the turn of the century, back in around the early 1900s, there was a doctor by the name of Dr. Rollier who was in the Swiss Alps, and he was taking people who couldn't survive from tuberculosis, and that was a serious condition, and he was putting them into what was called heliotherapy, moving them at different levels of altitude, and was completely healing them of a variety of ailments he had figured out what wavelengths were coming at each level and what the condition was, and they were able to alter the physical conditions. And you can look at some of his books, Dr. Rollier. And that was some of the original health advocates in America. If you go to Paul Bragg, and he had some experiences with this, and that's what got him on the health crusades. Of course, he had the first health and nutrition store, and went about on the health crusade. And his daughter Patricia is carrying on the Braggings. You've probably seen Bragg's apple cider vinegar. These are the early histories, and all of these super health people integrated the sun. And I don't know a super healthy person, a super vibrant person that doesn't use a lot of sun therapy and get out into the sun and the fresh air. There's some other interesting data, and you're seeing this, is when you're talking about light, what have we gotten hooked on? We've got hooked on blue light from television screens and from computer screens and from our cell phones. And this has now been proven to create physiological problems because it's not natural lighting. So we've gone almost to the opposite extreme. And I don't want to say, hey, don't use all those technologies, because we use them and we love them. But the reality is somehow in the last 50, 60 years, we've gone from understanding that getting out into the fresh air, getting out into the fresh sunlight is good for you, to saying, I need to slather up a concoction of unpronounceable chemicals, throw that on the largest organ in my body to prevent myself from this evil thing called the sun that's running everything in the world. And it just goes, wait a minute here. And instead, I'm going to sit in the dark room and I'm going to stare into a TV for 4, 5, 6 hours, and being programmed to eat more chips and more Coca-Colas and more Doritos and more, like, sorry to use the names and stuff, but I mean, it's just gone insane. And I'm going, wait a second. Does anybody want to take a tropical vacation in front of a TV in the middle of the North Pole in 24 hours a day of darkness? They don't put that on the postcard. What do they show? They show a tropical beach, an ocean air, something like that. That's the imaginary vacation. So why is it that we all know this on some deep down internal levels? Like, yeah, go into a sunny tropical place where it's going to be relaxing, get some sunshine, some ocean and stuff. Good idea, right? And I think we've got to check back to our intuitive nature. And anytime you have a scary fear, you got to really examine that. Like, is that real? Is that created? Is that mine? Is that something I've owned? And I think we live in such a fear-driven society that we want to protect our kids. We want to protect that stuff. But optimizing the dosage, you said it, is how much is enough, and how much is enough for me, and can I expand, or what is the conditioning program that I need? I'm not saying I'm a pale white gothic person. I need to run out instantly into the blazing hot sun at noon and tan myself. No, you want to build yourself up just like any other training program.
Yeah. So we'll talk about all the other cool light stuff, but I will say that I like to blast my brain with lasers up my nose and through my skull, and blast my balls with some other lights, and I'll do all this fun stuff because it's optimizing the body, which is what we're about. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about those.
And these things produce measurable effects.
Yes, sir.
That's the beauty of it. So it's not pie in the sky anymore. Technology is able to demonstrate that this stuff actually works and confirm your intuition.
And I just want to close off a loop you opened up about the blue lights at night.
Yes.
Because, being a guy that couldn't go to bed until 2, and I wanted to sleep. Like I'd wake up in the morning thinking, man, tonight, okay, I got to go to bed at 11. I got to go to bed at 12, right? Because I was tired. And then it's 11. It's 12. It's 1, and I'm jacked. I'm pumped. Like I'm watching TV, wide alert, and I have zero desire to go to bed. And then I found out about the blue light blocking glasses. The first night that I wore them, I'm yawning 90 minutes later. And in like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, okay, it's okay, I'm going to bed. So just that, and I'm not the only one. I have several friends that are insomniacs, couldn't fall asleep or had bad sleep, and just wearing blue light blocking glasses about 2 hours before you want to go to bed, it fixed it. So if there's a cheap hack, you can get some nice glasses. We'll put some links down below. $70, $100, which is all kinds of cool looking glasses, some that you can wear in public, some that you won't want to wear in public. But the point is that they work, and tracking it using the Oura Ring.
Yep.
There's always a significant difference in the level of deep sleep that I get when I wear the glasses, because my body's producing more melatonin, which then activates the prolactin cycle, and I get the deep stage 4 sleep and all the hormones that go along with it. So point is, block the blue light at night. It's a big power move. All right, next we're going to optimizers.
Hey, we started a company based on this, BiOptimizers.
Yes.
Because, Matty G and me, we've been looking at optimization all our lives. And, you're always talking optimization. And the reality is, if you're looking to get to the next level in the world, in your performance or function, or just have a little bit more energy at the end of the day, you got to look at, how do I optimize as many components of my life as I can. Start small. Start with the basics, air, water, and exercise. Start with getting some sunlight. But once you've built that momentum, you're going to say, well, what else can I do? Where else can I go? What else is most essential? And one of the things, of course, I was a classically trained nutritionist. And one of the interesting things, there was a little piece that you'll see in most nutrition books early on in the books, and it'll talk a little tiny bit about enzymes and its role in assimilating everything. And you'll see a 900-page nutrition book, and there's a paragraph on enzymes, and it's kind of like an afterthought. And then after I had my total physical meltdown in 2003, after the Mr. Universe, I heard this story about enzymes, and there was a medical doctor who brought this to my attention. He said, hey, look, the quality of your life, the ability to write energy checks, the ability to assimilate your food and eliminate toxins and be at your best level is directly correlated with your enzyme bank account. And he cited the work of Dr. Edward Howell, who wrote Enzyme Nutrition. It was at the turn of the century, which was refound by Victorious Kovinskas, founded in the Harvard Medical Library, buried amongst all the stuff. And here was this doctor that had just decades and decades of research of demonstrating the effects of taking exogenous, that's from outside the body, enzymes, and he applied it to dogs and to cats and to rabbits and all these things, and then he started applying it to people, and they started recovering from unrecoverable conditions. We'll use that terminology. And then there was, in the world of cancer, there was all this research done by Dr. Gonzalez that was using massive amounts of enzymes to solve problems. And then there was a research by Dr. Wong showing how you could have enzymes that could take away plaque inside the body. And then we started applying enzymes and say, well, what if we can improve our performance? Can we build more muscle? And that was something that I did an experiment from from 2004 to 2007 was, how do I take enzymes, which is the first part of the optimizers, and apply this to build more muscle and to do so in a way where I'm eating less protein and I didn't have to eat the whey protein. And we figured we cracked the code by 2007. I figured out a way to do this and to optimize my physical performance. And that just carried over to the next thing. I started looking at research of people that were, they had skin conditions and we could increase lipase and their skin got better. I saw people with depression. We give them proteolytic enzymes and all of a sudden they started to make the amino acids to create the polypeptide change and they started improving. I saw people that had heavy metal toxicity and we started looking at cellulase. I saw people with blood sugar programs challenges and you put amylase, and all of a sudden this enzyme story started to have specific applications. And of course, that was the start of optimization for us, where we really kind of exploded using enzymes and then what I call their co-partner, which is probiotics, which are little like mobile bags of enzymes, kind of like the smallest single unit of living organisms inside your body would be a probiotic. So you want to add to that equation, is because we're going to go kind of a little bit deeper.
So yeah. And I think we should share the story of really how we got exposed to this. You touched on it a little bit. So Wade and I went to an event by a man named Dr. Michael O'Brien. It was a full-day event for health professionals. And he just transmitted the power of enzymes and probiotics. And Wade and I looked at each other and says, okay, we got to do this. So we bought, I forget how much money.
It's $1,500 a month.
It was a lot of money to do the full protocol for 90 days. And I got, at that time, in the best shape I'd ever been in. Of course, I was working out. It's not just the pills and
right.
the powders. But, there was a difference, though, because it's how I felt. Even though I dropped 25, 30 pounds of fat in 12 weeks, the energy, the mental clarity, the focus, I just discovered a new gear that I never had before. So that was really, I think, our first introduction to BiOptimization. Like, that's where we really experienced it. We went from the bodybuilding paradigm to the biological optimization paradigm, and we haven't looked back since. So that's really where it started for us. And enzymes, to me, like, if you take away all my pills and all my supplements and all that stuff, that's the last guy I'm giving up for a lot of reasons. One, it's not about what you're eating. It's really about what you're breaking down, absorbing, and assimilating. That's really the name of the game. So, you can be eating the best food in the world, but as people get older, they have less and less enzymes, and they have digestive issues, they have health issues, and a lot of times it's just a shortage of amino acids. I'll give the story of my friend Frank. He's 76, and he was on antidepressants, a couple of antidepressants for a long time, and he started taking P3OM and Masszymes and got off of them. So another similar story, another friend of mine, he was also depressed, got on P3OM, done. And again, like the probiotics, not only are they going to fix your gut health, now what people have discovered is there's basically gut health brain. So your thoughts are being controlled in a big way by what's going on in there. And your number
and who's in there pulling the levers?
Yeah. So the number one source of serotonin in your body comes from your gut. So if you got a shortage of the good guys, and you have bad guys, so this is where we simplify it, bad guys dominating, telling you to pound McDonald's or to eat Oreos or whatever else you are hooked to.
Yep.
Then you're going to be eating some of the wrong stuff, and you're not going to be feeling as good as you could. So enzymes and probiotics, to me, are just absolutely foundational, no matter what somebody's health goal is, or health problem is, or performance. Like, if you want to lose weight, it ain't going to happen unless you fix your gut health. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, we could talk literally for days about enzymes and probiotics, and we will, just stay tuned. The point is, they're absolutely essential, critical, vital going on.
To mention on the probiotics for just one brief second, I think we've all had that experience where, it's late at night, you eat a bunch of food and you get done and you go, all of a sudden you kind of snap back into that moment. You go like, why did I do that? And you have to realize there's and science is now proving it. There's actually the bad bacteria inside your body can actually get access to your nervous system, release chemicals that will put you into an almost trance-like state and eat the foods that you shouldn't, that don't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And you go, why did I do that? Well, you didn't have a choice because you had someone else that was running the show. And that's a scary thought for a lot of people, but if you look at right now, here's the data. 85% of the people in the United States have unreported digestive issues. 25% of the population are on some form of prescription medication, and that's not counting the over-the-counter stuff. Mm-hmm. The reality is, you can cut off all the nerves to the digestive system, and it still runs. We have a saying, trust your gut. Mm-hmm. And the reality is your gut has your own brain. We all talk about it, gut instincts. That people can feel, or you have that sinking feeling in your gut, right? All of these things are little cues to recognize that your body is wondrously made and has some amazing mechanisms. And of course, there's more bacteria in your body than there is cells. There's a debate about how much that is, but the reality is there's a multiple of bacteria cultures, and some of them you need. Some of them we're not so sure about, and some of them you absolutely don't want. And the reality is we live in a world where we've been on this kind of antibiotic kick for so long that we've altered our digestive system. We've switched out the foods that were natural and indigenous to what our bodies have with all these kind of chemically enhanced foods in the production industry. And I'm not here to knock all that. I'm just saying this is the world that it is. The reality is you got to get your digestive back, and enzymes and probiotics are essential for getting that started, which will kind of lead you into your ability to absorb and to utilize the other things that you're going to take in your body. So you get more for less out of everything else you consume if you got enzymes and probiotics.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of other optimizers. I mean, again, we could talk for days, for weeks about all the other optimizers every year. But stay tuned, because again, we'll bring some other guests that are experts in their areas for optimization. And it seems to be an endless fun journey as far as tweaking things and getting more out of our bodies and, of course, out of life. Next, MBA.
Mental beliefs and attitudes. And, this is one of the greatest things that you can discover and explore, and it can be also one of the biggest limiting factors. In fact, you could probably put it first in the awesome formula, but it wouldn't spell right, so you can't do it. So
it wouldn't be awesome anymore.
It wouldn't be awesome. It'd be Mausau or something, and it wouldn't work. So mental beliefs and attitudes. The challenge with mental beliefs and attitudes is we tend to hang around people who have similar beliefs and attitudes. And one of my teachers, my spiritual teachers, said, we're all a little bit crazy. The problem is we don't know it because we hang around people with the same craziness. And when you get exposed to different beliefs, different ideas, different attitudes, oftentimes there's an internal resistance to it. And that's something that it's both an obstacle and an opportunity. Is how do I pull back and just explore these things? And it takes a little bit to develop that. And so some of the topics, for example, that we're going to touch on in these series coming up, they're going to be like right in your face about things that you hold near and dear. I hope that we have some of those things, and we have some people that challenge you. And not because we want to convince you of anything, but to recognize that only when you can look at an idea, a belief system, an attitude that you might have towards something from a polarization, maybe from an opposite view or what appears to be an opposite view, then you can go, okay, well, let me re-examine this. You might not be aware that you have a belief system. You might not be aware that you have an attitude that's maybe limiting you on some level. And one of the interesting things I think that for Matt and I mean, when we talk about this a lot, is naturally we had almost completely different philosophies in just about everything. I mean, he's a carnivore, I'm a vegetarian, right? Like, you know, he had belief systems about one thing, I had belief systems about, he had a training guide this way, I had a training that way, and it was always, and we used to battle back and forth. But then there was, well, then I tried something and I was like, well, that worked. And then he would try something and, well, that worked. And then we start to realize that, hey man, there's a lot of fun out of exchanging ideas or challenging each other. And that used to be a common idea in ancient times, is that you didn't look at a debate or an argument from a standpoint as, I want to win this. You would take the kind of Socratic method and let's remove all the things that aren't right and see what's left, and to share each other's beliefs and attitudes, to kind of come up with a meta mind, as you would say, that maybe is there's some higher integratable principles here that we can apply universally for both of us, even though that we may have a different culture, different social environment. What's your thoughts on that one?
I mean, this is so broad, wide, and deep that it's hard to know where to start. But I think the number one attitude that I think you want to incorporate is to be open-minded. Because if you're open-minded, flexible, adaptable, then you're open. You're open to learning new things. You're open to trying new things. Again, you won't be the last guy on the street to necessarily try the latest, greatest thing 20 years too late. So I hold everything that I know as provisional, which means that I know that most of what I believe today is wrong on some level. I don't feel bad about it. Like I just know that tomorrow, next week, next year, 10 years from now, there's going to be new information that's going to reveal that what I believe today is obsolete, right? And there's no better field than nutrition to actually experience that. In nutrition, new information is being discovered at an increasing pace.
Exponential, right?
It is absolutely exponential. And what we thought was true 20 years ago, now we know is not true, and it's going to continue being that way. So do not be dogmatic. That's the most important thing, because as soon as you believe that you've got the truth, I think you're screwed. So
true.
That I think, because once you have that open-minded, flexible, adaptable attitude and mindset, it opens you up for an infinite number of new mindsets and new perspectives and all this stuff. So that's where I try to be as much as possible, because otherwise I'm just cutting myself off. And of course we could talk about cognitive biases, which is also another limiting factor when it comes to attitudes, which basically means that you have these operating systems or these softwares that prevent you from seeing reality accurately. There's a great book called Seeking Wisdom that, in my opinion, is one of the better books I've read on cognitive biases. So, like I said, I mean, mental beliefs and attitudes is so deep. But I think you hit upon one thing, and that's and this goes back to the coaching piece. If you're getting started on your nutritional journey, on your fitness journey, on your health journey, one of the best benefits that you're going to get from working with a coach is you're going to get their mental beliefs and attitude through osmosis.
Absolutely.
Like without even trying, them, talking to you on a weekly basis, kicking your butt and saying, you know what, let's try this, or you're wrong about that, and them just sharing how they think is going to completely change how you see things. And that's one of the biggest payoffs of coaching. So mental beliefs and attitudes, stay tuned. We'll be going deep. There's so much to say.
One thing I wanted to add on that, and I think there was the greatest misquote in scientific history was on Charles Darwin, where they said, he's quoted as saying, survival of the fittest, and it wasn't survival of the fittest. It was survival of the most adaptable. So the organisms throughout nature that adapt the best are able to survive longer. And what does that really mean? It's those who are most mentally flexible to a changing environment. And never today has there been a more changing environment than health, than nutrition, than our lives, than the explosion of technology. All of this is evolving the species in ways that I don't think that we really understand. Some people call it the singularity. Some people call it a spiritual renaissance. Some people call it's the mind, fifth cycle or whatever. There's a lot of different theories or stories, but I think everybody can agree things have sped up. Things require different adaptation than they did 50, 60, 70, or 100 years ago when we didn't have mass communication and mass transportation and rapid transformation or transportation. So understanding that as a species, we have to become flexible, we have to become open-minded, we have to become experimental, or we're simply going to get left behind from whatever we're evolving to. So I think that was something that was difficult for me. Was a real challenge. I was a very rigid thinking person. I was very dogmatic in a lot of my beliefs. And I had results from that. And that was a thing. But there came a point in my life when I realized that I could only take that so far, and then I needed a new way, I needed a better way, and the only way that I was going to do that is if I was able to challenge my beliefs. And I'll give one more caveat. A lot of people don't know that in my bodybuilding career, I struggled for many, many years, and I could just never break through and win. I didn't have the great genetics and that sort of stuff, and I've trained really hard. I followed everything, I didn't have it. And what I did is I found a little cassette by Dr. Lee Poulos, and it was about programming your brain. And I started listening to this cassette every single, that was back when they had cassettes, okay? I don't even know if they exist anymore, but it's kind of dating me, but whatever. And I would listen to this every night. And literally, 1 year after doing that, I won everything for the first time in my life in 10 years. And then after that, it was the things that I needed to do to be successful just came easier in that sport. And not that long ago, I was looking at achieving in another area of my life, and I was like, for some reason I'm not able to grasp this one. I don't know what it is. And I went back to that subconscious program, which is a belief and an attitude that lies below the surface, as Tony Robbins would say. And I said, okay, well, that's what I did then. What if I start applying the same principle in this area of my life? And I did a similar thing. I started listening to an audio program over and over and over again. And I started to have a different belief and a different attitude. And it was an unconscious thing. And things started happening. So what I encourage people to realize is you can't argue with your results. Wherever your life is, it's a collection of your experiences. It's a collection of the beliefs and attitudes you might have, and the choices you've made from it have landed you where you are. If you're willing to accept that, then you're willing to now that if you can change some of those things, you will experience a different result. But if you don't, it's likely you're going to stay on the road you're on. And I think in today's world, if you're listening to this and you're watching this, you're one of those people that want to make that next leap, that you want to experience another level of health. You want to reach for that level of awesomeness, that's already within you. And of course, we've created not only this podcast, but we have a whole course. It's a 12-week course that you can take and get a little bit, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day. A really easy video. It's not going to cost anything. You can just use it and experience it, where we kind of give you a little tidbit every day, and slowly as you watch those and add up, I mean, the reports come back and you'll go, I can't believe it's just easy to do these things now, and I don't know what happened. And it's that little bit each and every day of just opening up the flexibility pipe to improve your mental beliefs and attitudes. And don't forget, we're going to have some world-class experts that are going to help you really get some really gold nuggets to apply quickly and effectively in your own life in this area.
One of my favorite questions that I like asking myself and I like asking people around me is, how's it working for you?
That's a great one.
You're 300 pounds, you've been struggling for 10 years trying to lose weight. How's your mental beliefs and attitudes working for you? you're struggling to, whatever it is you're struggling with, if you just ask yourself and answer honestly, how's it working for you? It's very powerful because it just exposes the bad software. It exposes the mental beliefs and the attitudes that have gotten you to where you are right here, right now. Like, bottom line, we all are where we are right here, right now, primarily because of our mental beliefs and attitudes. So, if you're exactly where you want to be and you're in the best shape of your life and you're on fire, then you've got really effective, awesome mental beliefs and attitudes. And if you're not, then there's probably some areas that you could upgrade. So, yeah, again, it's not about beating yourself up. That's not where I want you to go with it. But just say, you know what, yeah, there's a couple things I can upgrade and start taking some action to make that happen. So, again, stay tuned. We'll be going deep into MBAs. Final piece, ETC.
ETC, etc., or education, testing, and coaching. And, I call this this is like the triangle of courage and honesty. Oftentimes, to further your education, it's going to take an investment of your time and your energy and your resources. You want to extract the most that you can out of that. And how do you do that? Well, number one, you get definitive data of where you are, and you do that through testing. Whether it's testing yourself can I walk down a mile down the street without bonking? Whether it's testing to have the latest micronutrient test, whether it's testing your hormones, whether it's testing yourself on
DEXA.
Yeah, on a body fat scan.
Your sleep, get the Oura Ring. I always like to say great data shapes destinies. And I've experienced it. It's not just a quote that I conjured up because it sounded cool. I experienced it. I experienced it with body fat, hormones, sleep, where on some level I was living a lie, right? I was living a lie and I didn't know it. Like, it's not like I wanted to lie to myself. It's not like I took the data and I buried it. I didn't know what was really going on. And I fooled myself into believing that it was good or it was okay. And then when I got the data, it was sobering. It was shocking. It was like, really? But you can't, the numbers don't lie. So those, accepting the numbers and then starting to make the changes to get back on track or to fix what was wrong was transformative. It shaped my destiny. And if I had just kept the blinders on and not looked at those numbers, I'd just be fooling myself. I would just be paying the price. So, great data shapes destinies, no doubt about it.
When you think back to everyone who's watching this has probably been in some sort of schooling situation where you had which is what they call education. And during education, you start the year and you're at a point and there's tests to make sure that you have a level of proficiency, or maybe you went to a job where you had to take tests and stuff like that. And I think the one problem or the one thing that we have to overcome is oftentimes in our formal or structuredized programs, we looked at a test as a pass or fail, and we looked at somehow we hooked that into the value of who we were or what we were or what we could be.
I'll go even further than that. I think for a lot of people, it was trauma. It was traumatic, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
If you fail the test as a kid, I remember I didn't fail any tests in school, but I remember I was doing swimming badges, and it was my 5th or 6th badge. It was the first thing I ever failed, and it was traumatic. Like I remember I was at my grandfather's house. I remember the moment. That's how traumatic it was. I remember opening the card and seeing that I'd failed, and I couldn't believe it. And it was traumatic. So I think for that reason, a lot of people fear. They fear data. They fear testing. They'd rather stay in the dark than actually shed the light on the issues. for that reason. So,
and that leads us to the third part of that, which is the coaching aspect and why that's so important. Because to me, a great coach or a coaching relationship is one of the most purest experiences you can have as a human, because a great coach is interested in one thing and one thing only, and that is finding the ways, the methodologies to activate the genius, to activate the greatness, to activate the awesomeness that lies within you and lies within all of us. Mm-hmm. And the coach's job is to help convince you, or to help encourage you to have the courage to expose yourself to the test, to expose yourself to the challenges, to start to learn from those experiences and stop seeing it as pass or fail. Start seeing it as, I'm getting data and feedback of what I'm doing, and I'm going to course correct, and from those course corrections I'm eventually going to experience the next level of possibility in my life. And I think we both came from a coaching background, and we've got to see that, and of all the things I've ever done, I would have to say being a coach and being coached are two of the most amazing, most amazing experiences you can have, to have those relationships, because they're so pure and so rare. And for anyone that hasn't had a coach or hasn't had a coaching experience, go get one. I don't care what it is, if it's a piano lesson, if it's learning a new language, or anything. Just get a coaching experience and anchor what that experience is like for 6 weeks or 12 weeks or something, and see what it does for your life, your self-esteem, your ability to solve problems in your experience. And related to us, when it comes to getting to the next level of health, you're going to need a variety of coaches. You're going to need a variety of people to come in and say, hey, you know what, this is an area you're down. I've conquered this area, and I've developed methodologies to help you. Instead of being able to do this in 20 years that it took me to figure this out, you can do this in 20 weeks or whatever time that happens to be. Coaches allow you to compress the time of trial and error and to find a proven methodology that works for you, that you can get the benefits of whatever you're trying to achieve in a rapid period of time. And we call that education. And the corner mark of that is the testing along the way. Education, testing, and coaching. That's why we put in the awesome formula. That's what this story is about. This ongoing podcast is to find the experts to help you learn, to get the tests you need, and to find the coaching you need to get to the next level. And this is what I'm so excited about, because we've had so many coaches and so many mentors and so many people that have helped us along the way to bring these to life, to bring these to you, is perhaps the greatest gift that we could possibly bring to you, and I'm excited to do that.
Absolutely. A coach helps facilitate the transformation from where you are now to where you want to be. And a lot of that, again, is the MBAs, the mental beliefs and attitudes. A lot of it is giving you a specific, concrete plan, a strategy, tactics. A lot of it is solving those challenges that you might have either in your mind or in reality. It goes on and on. We're all the average of the people we spend the most amount of time with. And when you start spending time with somebody that is out here and you're there, you start getting attracted and pulled closer and closer to where they are. Their what you consider extreme, mind-blowing performance and body fat level or muscularity, whatever you're looking at, starts being normalized. And when it gets normalized, it changes your beliefs. Like, okay, being at 12% body fat isn't just pipe dream. My coach is there, and he's a normal human being. Maybe I can get to 14% or 15%, and you start moving that way, and your beliefs increase and increase. I like hanging out with people that are in another planet with whatever I want to do. Last week I was hanging out with one of the top bodybuilders on the planet, and some people say, hey Matt, you got a lot of muscle mass. I don't think I got a lot of muscle mass. I'm hanging out with him, and I'm looking at him, and that's a lot of muscle mass. So right. My concept of what's normal is very different, because I've hung out with a guy like that. Or you hang out with the guy who's, like a Ben Greenfield, who's, such an incredible athlete who can perform things that is just mind-blowing, it just changes what you think is possible. It changes what you think is normal. And of course, a great coach is going to guide you. And our goal with this podcast is just to be your virtual mentors. Mentors come in a lot of shapes, sizes, and forms. Books are great, YouTube videos, podcasts. All these technologies allow us to transfer our knowledge, our passion, and our experience to you. And all you have to do is hit play. So it's great, and we're really excited to continue sharing with you guys and getting some awesome guests, people that we know, like, trust, and respect, that have cracked their codes that are going to transmit it to you. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments, share them in the comment box. We're really excited to serve you guys.
We're really excited to serve you. So keep the journey going. Send us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. We'd like to connect with our team. And if you have somebody out there that you think is an amazing, let us know about that too, because we are exploring just as much as you are. So we're on this journey together towards awesome health. And I look forward to seeing your comments and to hear back from you, and of course seeing you on the next episode.
At BiOptimizers, our mission is to fix digestion. And a cornerstone of digestion is gut flora. P3OM is our patented probiotic formula. In fact, we call it the Navy SEALs of probiotics. You see, strong proteolytic or protein digesting activity is paramount to having a healthy gut flora. And of course, P3OM provides that. The good news is, unlike weaker probiotics, P3OM survives the digestion process. What it does is it basically multiplies the good guys while protecting you against pathogens, or what some people call the bad guys. P3OM really helps to rebuild your digestion. And what that allows you to do is to maximize nutrient uptake, energy, and metabolism. To find out more of how P3OM can help you, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the BiOptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.